Yeah.
I don't think that'll work. You don't think
That lady,
okay. So I hit the chair.
You want to sit yours behind the table?
who are,
Oh,
I saw a sign the other day that says I run on Indian time. I'll be there sometime between 30 minutes and $3.
for any visitors today, this is the Native American Fellowship. This is an organization that's been active here for at least 6 years, founded by Ronnie Ellison over there. And we've been meeting here monthly for at least 6 years. And we've had a lot of interesting programs over the years. And it's always open to the public. You do not have to be Native American to be a participant of this organization. Most I think, do have some small, at least, ancestry but some don't. And we encourage anybody who's interested in Native American culture, whether or not you really have any ancestry or not. That's basically what this organization is all about. We've had speakers come from as far away as Dallas, and today Cathy Mayton comes to us from Paris, Texas. Native American elder abuse, a topic we've never covered before.
Speak to my...
She could probably tell us her story.
Don't I look abused?
Yeah, you look really confused.
Don't ask about it.
You caught me when I have to keep my mouth shut.
It came to my attention back in October. I belong to a web site called Native Spirits Tribal Community. And it's kind of like a Facebook group, but it's all Indians or people like the NAF or who have an interest in Native Americans. And I am non-Native, but I have a tremendous love for the Native Americans and have had since I was a little bitty girl. But in October, I read about a story of elder abuse on the Lakota reservation, the Pine Ridge Reservation. And what's happening there is the tribal council, not the tribal council, but the people that are in charge are abusing, they're being greedy and corrupt. And so what's happening is that the meals that have been supporting the elders is being taken away. And they're actually closing the program down. And what's happening is there's elders who are dying. They've got diabetes and heart problems and things like that. And so what they're blaming the United States government for the atrocities that it's happening on the reservation, when in reality it's the Native Americans themselves, the Lakotas, who are not taking care of their elders. And it really bothers me that you have the Lakotas especially who talk a lot about the sacredness of life and what can be more sacred than the elders who are going to pass anytime soon, and have all of this knowledge, this wisdom of Native American history. And they're being abused. They're not being taken care of. So the other story that came in October too was, you've heard of Dennis Banks? Okay, his granddaughter was murdered in October, and by the father of her children. And of course, on the reservation, there's a lot of alcoholism and drug abuse and abuse of women and children, and it's not unique to the Lakotas, because when I missed last month because I had to go to Arizona because my grandmother passed away in December, and so I went to help my parents remove the contents from her house. But when I was coming through New Mexico, there was billboards about, no excuse for abuse of children and elders. So again, it's not unique to the Lakotas. What Dennis Banks is going to be doing, if he hasn't started it already, is going on a march from California to Washington to raise awareness of abuse of women on the reservations. And the blame is being put on America, on the American people, on the American government, that they said that there wasn't any of this before the whites took over, that, and destroyed their societies. That I don't know, because I didn't live 200 years, nor did I live in a tribe, so I really don't know if there ever was, if that was a problem at one point. I know that people as a whole, through history, abuse one another, use them as slaves or whatever. So, I wanted to have this discussion to see if there's got to be some way to change things. Because nothing's going to change unless we, as a people, whether you're native or not, change the way that we think. So if we have, it's like there's I get a catalog from a reservation in a company in New Mexico that sells the t-shirts and stuff that I wear come from there. And they're, in the wintertime, they're asking for money to help people, for food and heating and things like that in their homes. So a reservation, in a sense, is kind of like the ghettos of New York. It's very, very poor. The people are in despair. They feel helpless. I know from the healing methods that I use that genetically we can literally pass down inherited emotions. So if our great-great-grandfather experienced hatred or sorrow or being abandoned or whatever, he literally can genetically pass that down from generation to generation. And with all of the atrocities that happened to the Native Americans, there definitely is that embedded in the DNA. So if we're doing things the same way all the time and it's not working, why don't we change it? And how do we change it? It has to be done on a the other thing they say is they've lost their freedom. Well, freedom, what does freedom mean? You can be free, you can be a prisoner in your own house. So what does freedom mean? If you live on a reservation and you don't feel free, then that's a personal issue. Because technically we all have the ability to be free. So if we somehow we have to change the thinking of the peoples on the reservation and bring them back to the proud people that they are. They have so much to offer. I don't understand where all of the money goes that from the casinos. Where does that money go? It's not going to the reservations. So where does that money go?
Somebody's pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of corruption within the natives, the Native Americans themselves. Yet it's easier to blame somebody else for your issues. And that's true even for myself. I mean, I had issues that I've been working on. And it's easier to blame, like your parents, if they hadn't done this or that, then I wouldn't be whatever. And I carried a lot of my own personal wounds from my own childhood. So I know what it's like. And I've also been at the very bottom of where I lost technically I lost everything and had to start over again. So I know what it's like to feel helpless and despair, and but you have to pick yourself up and you have to find a way to make things better for yourself. So, but how, my question is, what can we do, and how do we approach a societal thing like this? It's, I don't know what to do, but I know that it bugs me.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, many years back, the Indians were very reverent to their elders.
Right.
And so I don't know, something changed along the way.
They've been infected by the whites.
Probably.
Yeah, but see, but that statement right there basically says that's blaming the whites for where we are today. Yeah, and that's true. That'd be like saying, that'd be like blaming my parents. Okay, what happened with the Native Americans in the atrocities, that happened a long time ago, and we can't be held hostage forever for that. So we have to find a way to change the thinking and help the individual to heal. As each individual heals, that helps the people around them to heal. So, because the Native American, right now, Mother Earth is crying for help. There's a lot of, there's so much damage that we as a society, all societies, have done to Mother Earth. And it's the Native Americans who have the gift to teach the other people how to do that and to revere everything. But they have to start with their own people. How can you revere the horse, like we saw that movie, We Are the Horse Nation. How can you revere the horse, but you treat your elders? You can't feed your elders because of the corruption within your own society? That's wrong.
It's somewhat like they're wanting them to die off so they won't have to worry with them.
Yeah, but what they're saying is if one more, and it was in one of the newsletters, if one more elder dies, then that's genocide, and it's being blamed. The government is being blamed for that, and the reason they're being blamed is because there's tax dollars that is creating that program, and the government's supposed to oversee it. Well, if the government's not overseeing it, then that's how the blame is going to the U.S. government. But what about their own selves? Can't they take care of their own selves and have their own pride and quit the greed and corruption within their own society?
It seems like they've been so accustomed, they're there on the reservations, and they just kind of, I lost my train of thought. I had a thought going there.
It's a way of life.
It's a way of life
It's
that
like-
they've grown accustomed to.
Right.
And
Are they free to leave the reservations now?
Yes.
Time
Yeah,
was
sure.
they weren't.
Yeah, they can leave.
They can leave now.
There's a lot of very successful Native Americans.
Oh, I don't mean that. I'm an Okie and grew up in the midst of all this. And there was a time that when they were set on a reservation, they had to stay there or get permission to leave. And I just wonder, I have no idea if it's still like that or not.
Honestly, I don't think so. Does anybody know?
A lot, depending on what state happened. In Texas, there were natives in all parts of Texas, but they were forced out, and were forced into Oklahoma. So the only left is one tribe close to Houston, Livingston, and the Comanches, the Caddo, Kiowa, they were all forced out of Texas. And most of us here have a Cherokee. And we, everybody or may not know all, but those that have the Black Dutch in what is it?
Influence?
That they hide their identity and did that for so long. And so a lot of them left and went into Oklahoma, but others stayed here and mingled with the whites and we're all mixed.
Black Dutch. They became Black Dutch
We're
instead
all
of
we're
Cherokee
Black
or
Dutch.
Caddo or Delaware or whatever they happen to be.
My niece and her husband and family lived on the, I forget which reservation in Arizona. Remember that? Anyway, they were there to teach. And my niece talked about there's such despair and they feel down the whole time. It's just like, there's no hope. Why should we try? It's kind of their attitude.
But see,
And they have a lot of suicide.
yes, they do. Yeah, and young kids too.
Yeah.
But so, if they would take the monies from the casinos and things and make enterprises within the reservations where they would sell, make things and sell things and free themselves up that way and become independent. The government wants people to be, dependent on them because that keeps you in control. You can't be controlled if you're independent.
That's true.
Here a few years ago, we was on the Zuni reservation in southern New Mexico. And we was talking to this man, he had some fetishes that he had made. And they were very nice. He was an older man. And Ellie was looking at one. He had 4 or 5 of them there. And Ellie was looking at one. And she says, how much is this one? He says, $10. Well, she set it down and looked at another one. He says, $5? And he was virtually begging. And Ellie says, she looked around and she says, no, I'll take this one, but I'll give you $10 for it. He says, it's worth more than that. And he says, well, would you sign, what?
It was a card for him to get food stamps.
Yeah,
And
for him to
done
get
some
his,
work,
yeah,
and he had to have that signed. but he
for
made
him
some
to
money.
get his reservation allotment, he had to prove that he was trying to work. And his allotment was due the next day, and he hadn't sold anything all month.
Oh, wow.
And he needed to sell at least one thing, but he was really desperate. And I really felt tired for him. If I could have, I'd have just
That's
bought
the
everything he
only
had,
way- Only way he could get food was to sell something, and then they'd allow him enough money to get buy some food.
But see, if they educated the people to the kids and go back to the old ways of, your religious, the ways of the shaman and all the tribal traditions that you used to have, and come up with ways to enterprise each of the reservations and make them a business, because they have so many gifts. Not only it could be for the Lakotas because they love the horses so much, is that they do horse training or train people to the Lakota way of how to work with a horse. Or like, you know, the Zuni's have beautiful artwork. The needlepoint artwork is really pretty. And the Navajos, they have their sterling silver. And the Kachinas of the Hopis, I mean,
I've got several of them.
as do I. But, you know, it's just, to me, there's got to be a way to help change the thinking and create hope instead of despair. Remove the despair. I don't know. It bugs me, and I just wanted to bounce this off of other people.
There are what referred to here as the 5 civilized tribes. They were Cherokee, I'll get it all mixed up now, but Choctaw, Chickasaw, and they start teaching now what you started are growing up now, and it's part of their through all the kids now have to go to school and to learn their language, and they've been doing that for several years now because they were afraid that they were going to lose that language, and so especially among those 5 tribes, everything is growing up and doing better. It's better with it that, especially going up into Dakotas and all of them, where I guess with the 5 civilized tribes, they were in the eastern part of United States, and they knew about and grew more of the American what went on, you know, and so most of them are mixed. That's the way we are mixed with something all over the United States, but the rest of the country, the United States, doesn't hardly help anything. But with the 5 civilized tribes, they are pretty well, they're doing real good, and they tend to.
As far as teaching
Teaching and
their language,
What did Shirley teach when she was teaching?
Dakota.
I mean,
she
what,
taught.
the language or
No, I
No,
guess she was teaching the English.
English, I think.
English? Okay.
When we lived in Tennessee, Tennessee does not have an Indian reservation. And when they have moved all the reservation over into North Carolina and all out of eastern Tennessee. But the Methodist Church designates one Sunday a year as Native American Sunday. And we would take up a collection. And well, Ellie and I was, in fact, she was actually the designated Native American representative from our church. And we'd go up to Nashville and have meetings, get-togethers and all. And the Methodist Church, there was no reservations in Tennessee, but we virtually supported 2 small reservations in northern Alabama. And that were, I mean, they were really destitute. And I kind of got used to that, and when we moved back to Texas, what happened to the Native American Sunday, you know? And,
We used to have it out here, but
Well, it's on the Methodist, on the conference calendar. It's up to each church whether or not they want to observe it.
yeah.
That's something you all can promote.
Huh?
That's something you and Ellie can promote.
Well, also, the month of November is supposed to be the Native American month. That's supposed to be celebrated everywhere, if you don't see it.
I've never heard of that. And personally, I think they ought to Columbus Day to Native American Day, because Columbus never touched,
He never got here, did he?
no, he never got here, so I never understood that.
But the problem is similar, like you mentioned, the ghettos, and the people that are there and don't feel like they can ever get out. And this is a similar problem, kinda, sorta.
Where do you start?
Exactly, where do you
Where do
start?
you start? You got, somebody has to start somewhere.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't know where to start, and I just wanted to bounce it off of everybody and see what you thought, because, I mean, it's like Dennis Banks, you know, you can raise money for awareness and stuff, but you're just, if you keep doing the same thing over and over the same way, nothing changes. You have to do something unique, you have to do something different.
I used to teach a class when I was working, and I named it, if you do what you've always done, you're gonna get what you've always got.
Exactly, that's true. That's very true.
And that's what the class was about, was you gotta accept change.
Right.
When we organized here, it was, Joe Dan's, yeah, we tried to do people to understand our Native American feelings and why we would have a meeting and try to understand what happened for long ago. A lot of people didn't know anything. And like I say, later people come in and found out, I've heard of the Wisdom of Black Dutch all my life, you know, and they didn't know what it was all about. And so, because people would keep hearing, they're hiding, you wouldn't tell anybody. And we tried to get information out to people and tell folks, and we've been going this for a long time, and sometimes we have a few people, have more, sometimes quit going, you know. Linda and I both said, well, I wonder if even have everybody gonna be here, you know. Sometimes we come up and you just keep going.
It would be great if, now, this Dennis Banks, who is,
Dennis Banks, he actually started the American Indian Movement, or AIM. I don't know if AIM is still viable or not, but
You don't hear as much of it now as you used to even 15 years ago.
and he's a singer too, because I have one of his CDs. That's how I knew his name. And
That's
so
one
when I
of the
read
things.
that, I was like, oh my gosh, his granddaughter was murdered. So, you know, here you have a high-profile person who's lost somebody within his family, and yet raising money and doing things the same way over and over again is worthless. I mean, yeah, you may have some people standing alongside the road and cheering you on, and, you know, you might be collecting money and stuff, but what happens with the money when you get it?
Who's in charge? I'm just asking questions, you know. Who's in charge? Does it start internally to fix the problems internally within each nation? I mean, because this is where somebody there is
Right.
getting the money and not appropriating it responsibly. So,
Exactly. I mean, it's just like on the Lakota on the Lakota reservation. You've got greed among their own peoples, so, and corruption. So that has to be fixed.
they need to be cleaned up.
They need to be cleaned up, exactly, and quit blaming somebody else for something that they have control over doing. If they're the ones abusing the funds, then those are the ones that have to be thrown out, and new people come in and take over the programs.
And you get to go in there and do that.
I don't know. It's a tough problem.
Well, it is, and they're not going to be very acceptable to people that are not Native American.
Exactly.
they don't, you know, they've had their fill up to here
Right.
with whites and so,
But see,
or
that's,
any descendant of that.
that's true too, but there's also the thing that the Lakotas in particular, and I talk about them the most because a lot of the information that I get is about the Lakotas. They have that symbol which has the 4 colors of the nations, red, black, yellow, and white. And what they're saying is that to create unity of the 4 nations, you know, which is would be the whole world. But how can you do that if you're blaming one of the other nations for where you are? You're constantly battling. We have to stop battling and we have to start working together.
And they've got to want to have this change. If they don't want this change.
I mean, typically the U.S. government just doesn't give a flip
Well,
about
you know,
the
they've been
American
trying to get
people.
rid of, you know, that,
Well, it's not a personal thing with them.
Right.
you know, they've been trying to get rid of that, you know, with them for, 200 years. And they keep thinking if they take them and send them out away from their tribe, their reservation and their people, and they go out and assimilate into the world, then they will marry other race of people, and so that waters down the blood. And so then it waters down the blood again, and the next generation. And so that's the government's, in their eyes, that's the government's way of eradicating the American Indian. We want people to come on in.
Yeah.
We welcome you. It's going to be kind of hard to do.
Because the ones
Well,
that
it-
need,
The problem is getting the money where it will do the most good. And the government has never been known for that.
That's true.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
Here, as an example, here, I was back in the 70s. There was an area in New York City that they were plagued with rats. And they were causing all kinds of diseases. And one of the representatives in Washington from New York City put a bill up wanted $3 million to study the rat problem and figure out how to solve it. Well, the representative from that district knew this 17-year-old black boy that pretty well run that whole area. He was the man to go to if you wanted anything done. He slipped a $50,000 acquisition, put it into a bill. It went through. He got the $50,000. He gave it to that boy. The boy told him, he says, I can solve your rat problem. He paid a bounty. He got all the kids, that whole area, he paid 50 cents for every rat they brought in 3.5 weeks. So you couldn't find the rat, and he turned $3,400 back to the government.
we should have kept it.
And this other representative had a fit, because he wanted the $3 million to study the problem.
Not
Now, that's the government.
That's the government.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
that's the
always
government.
doing something stupid like that.
We elect them.
Yeah. I know it. We need to get
terrible.
some.
The country as a whole is in deep poo right now.
That's true.
But my concern is, there's despair in other areas like the ghettos and things like that.
Yes.
I mean, it's not unique, and elder abuse and child abuse and women abuse is not unique to the Native Americans
No,
either.
it's not good.
But for some reason, it really bothers me that these elders, because, maybe it's because it's the elders that have the wisdom to pass down to the next generations and keep those things alive that is how you lived, a long time ago. Your beliefs and, the Christians came in and basically pushed everybody aside, saying that the Native Americans were pagans because they didn't worship you know, Jesus and all this and that. But what they didn't understand, nor did they care, was that the Native Americans and the Aborigines and other societies as well, they all know that there's one creator. And so it may be worshipped or spoken to in a different way, but there's still that one creator. But, I mean, Christianity has destroyed a lot of peoples, not just here, but in Australia and other places as well. So I don't know.
I don't know if it's Christianity or if it's, how would I say that, the lack of acting like a Christian instead of, a lot of them didn't, they just were greedy.
That's going on all over the world.
Well, when you're talking about greed, there's only one tribe in Oklahoma. It is totally different. They keep their own, everything goes on. And so every other tribes, the government came in and they said, I know from friends of ours, they were in, the lady used to come to church here, but she's elderly now and can't. But they were members of the Cherokee. And they give you so many acres. Well, like their father, they had a lot of land, but they had to give it up and allowed only this much land. And the rest of it goes back to the government where they sell to white people. And so lost things that they had owned all that. So the rest, same way in the other tribes, they gave you a lot of it, a lot of it. And they had, before then, they had worked and to make it good and everything, and now we're getting down to the worst. You just have to live on what they got.
And that's, I mean, that's wrong what the government continues to do even to this day, to not keep to the treaties that they set and continue to lie to people. I mean, they lie to the American people as it is, as a whole.
300 and something times they have lied, but they have never, against, the Indians have never was against it.
Two questions, Cathy. In your research on elder abuse among Native Americans, first question, what form does it take, or forms, you know, the way that it is exhibited, the abuse? Then two, related question, is there anything being done in the Native community in which you have observed and researched? Is there anything being done by the Native Americans to combat this? Got them? The two questions?
I think so. The first, as far as the first question goes, from what I understand, from what I've read, is that they closed down the program that fed the elders within the tribe. So they no longer have that free meal, you know, a nice, warm, healthy meal. To have, they don't have that anymore, and they're changing, went to a different program that served the corruption within the tribe. And then as far as what are people doing, the discussion that was going on was the continued blaming the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So,
but is anyone in the community doing anything to change that?
not that I can observe.
Okay, so there's no, what I call champion emerging to fight or change this situation.
No.
Okay, now, is it your intention with this discussion to come up with some way to do that, to address, to change what's going on with this organization perhaps taking some lead on it?
My thought was to just put this out for discussion and see what you thought as to how to approach this, because as a non-native, they're not gonna listen to me. So I just wanted to put it out to you folks to see what you guys thought. Because something's gotta change, you know, and it's true, I mean, even within myself. If I continued to live my life the same way I did, nothing would change for me. But when I got sick and tired of how my life was going, I had to make multiple changes. And because of that, I'm healthier, I'm happier, but I had to do it ground level within myself. And this is where the healing has to take place, is within each individual. And changing the mind is a very powerful organ. And yes, we can live in despair. Like I said, I've been at the bottom rung, but I pulled myself out of the swamp and changed my life. And so I don't know how to change that within a total society.
We had a friend, and we spoke about him before, the one that we had the Cherokee wedding. He ran for chief up there, and his thinking was he did not want them to open a casino. He said that would be the worst thing for the people, to open a casino, and he really wanted to work with the people with the alcoholism, but he wasn't elected. He didn't win his race because they wanted the money from the casinos. And really, he said that they wouldn't really benefit much from it.
Exactly. Where does the money go?
Right.
I have no idea. You know that there's a bunch of money coming in, but where does it go?
All through the 70s. And we used to go to Tahlequah quite a bit. And they had a nice motel. It was owned by the Cherokees and run by the Cherokees. Had fabulous dining room, excellent meals. I mean, on a scale of 1 star to 5 star, it would rate up there close to a 4-star establishment. I mean, it was, and you got service. I mean, it was, and when was it? About the middle 80s, late 80s, when Jean and I went. And my sister come down and visit, and she wanted to go to Tahlequah. And I said, well, we'll go up there and stay at the motel. We hadn't been there in about 3 years. So, anyway, we get up there and we're just touring around, stopping here and there and talking to people. It's getting close to dark. And I said, well, let's go get us a room. Well, we go over there, and my sister stayed in the car. I walked in, and man, it was totally different. This lady come over and she says, can I help you? And I says, I hadn't been here in a few years. So I said, we used to stay here all the time. She said, well, this is no longer a motel. I said, oh. She says, no, it's a rehab for children with drug problems. And they'd converted the motel into a rehab center for high school and junior high school kids.
Was it still a Cherokee?
Yeah, it's still owned by the Cherokees.
And the program was for Native American children?
Yeah, it was all Cherokee children.
Yeah.
High school, junior high and high school children that had. I couldn't imagine that many. And Tahlequah is not that big, but to have that many to fill that motel up of that age group, it just flabbergasted me.
That is a lot of things that people don't realize that a lot of people, especially among the 4 or 5 tribes, they still are doing programs like the schools and so much money. We get the Cherokee paper, and it tells how much money goes to the casinos, but that money goes out to the other parts of the so many counties. That's not making good sense.
That, you're saying the money from the casinos,
Part of it, they split.
they
They're
split
told what
between
goes-
several, it's not just where that casino sits, so it's
Yeah.
other counties.
Well, I know that addiction is a very high, very large problem, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And I know some of the Lakota reservations, they have passed a new ordinance or new law, whatever, that these establishments that sells liquor cannot sell liquor on the reservation anymore. But here's the line, and they're right here.
Yeah.
And they're all up and down. So,
Right.
you know, to me, they, you know, this is one of the major problems that plagues American Indians is addiction, whether it's drug or whether it's alcohol.
Right.
Of course, then diabetes falls in there too. But as far as addiction is concerned, you know, this is what they have, and you know, they need to make those people somehow, whether it's new law or whatever, because a lot of that money is probably going to support
Exactly.
these establishments that's selling all this liquor and all these people that's selling the drugs, because these people come off, you know, they can't buy it on the reservation anymore, but they can step across the line, and it's there abundantly.
Whether it's Wood County or Kent.
It's kind of like a dry county versus,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know how it was before, you know, I know when in the Dallas area, if I wanted to buy beer, you know, I had to drive to Dallas to buy beer. Well, now all I have to do is just go down to the local Brookshire's and pick one up.
Yeah.
But, you know, for many years, you know, it just was not available except in the Dallas area, and so this is.
It is like my aunt and uncle lived in Bonham, about 3 miles, well, Red River, Bonham, but they lived about 3 miles south of Red River. And now my mother, she, that's a different story. She drank one time, but she didn't know. And my aunt was very religious, and they had, when shoot the county. I started to say, I know the name of the county.
Cannon.
Yeah, anyway,
Cannon.
they had an election to turn the county wet. And they was holding the election. My mother and dad was down visiting. And my aunt says, Chester, that's her husband, says, we got to go vote for this. My mother looked at her and said, you're voting for the... And she says, you just sit out here on our front porch on Friday and Saturday night. And she says, it's like a racetrack going to the river. And she says, we might as well get that tax money as Oklahoma. And because just across the river, there's about 5 places.
Right.
Well, when they went west,
Go across the bridge.
all of them but
It's there.
one went out of business. There's all, Texas was supporting them.
Yeah.
We live on Highway 11. And
We used to,
we sit there watching neighbor. We knew everybody was getting.
When we first moved here, and I'd tell them where we lived, you know, they didn't know, and I says, well, it's on your way to Newsom. Oh, yeah, I know where that's at.
Yeah, when we first moved here, nobody knew where Scroggins was, but, well, we're about 5 miles this side of Newsom. Oh, I know where that's at. Everybody knew where Newsom was.
I grew up in Oklahoma when it was totally dry, completely. And you could buy liquor easier from your front door than you can in Winsboro with the sale of it in town. Nobody went without a drink ever. And what's more, they'd bring it to you. It's delivered.
They used to do that in Lubbock. My uncle used to have a bootlegger. He'd just make a phone call,
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm
go out in the
talking about.
driveway, and they'd make an exchange.
The richest man in town was never the banker, it was the bootlegger.
Bootlegger, the drug dealer.
Cathy, if there's anything to be done to alleviate this situation, you know, I'm thinking right now, you know, that if you think about the Caucasian society of this country, we have something that exists pretty well throughout the country called age discrimination.
Amen.
So that in a sense, all of us of a certain age are discriminated against in one or more ways. Some of us may be abused as well, you know, but discrimination carried to an extreme can itself be an abuse. And I'm just trying to think back of the types of discrimination in this country that have been addressed, met, and basically, if not obliterated, changed dramatically. Civil rights and that sort of thing, have been done largely through, I can think of two ways. There may be others that I'm not thinking about, but one of them is through the churches, the other one is through the media. And the combination of the two pretty much wiped out, a third would be civil disobedience, if laws are in place. See, there's laws against age discrimination already. It's already against the law to do it. So that's not working. The only way we could make that work, probably, if we wanted to, would be to figure out some way to like the civil rights people did, to do sit-ins or whatever it would take to stop employers. Most of the discrimination that I can think of, age discrimination, is in the area of employment. There may be others. I think the biggest form of discrimination against age in this country is ignoring. You know, you're not really treated as a full human being because you're old.
Yeah, you're over the hill.
You're over the hill, yeah. And so what I'm wondering, so we haven't actually dealt with this as in the large society. We have a certain form of age abuse, elder abuse in this country, widespread, that's never been addressed except legally, and that not effectively. So the only way that I can think of that we might find a way to deal with the kind of elder abuse you found in the Lakotas, and it may be prevalent in other tribes, but would be to recommend something through the churches or the media. Now, the media would mean like you writing an article and getting it published in perhaps the Methodist, to bring the churches into it. The Methodist Church has a newsletter that they send out every so often, this sort of thing. But we don't have any Lakotas in this area. You know, they're all up in the Badlands, the Dakotas, Nebraska, I think, mostly, this sort of thing. So to deal with them directly, you'd need to deal with the media up there, I think, you know. But the only way it would ever be effective would be to get somebody in the tribe to become a champion and go out and do the writing, do the complaining, do whatever was necessary to bring that to the attention. You know, contacting your lawmaker, which may sound kind of useless, but, you know, if you found the right lawmaker, that might work. You know, can you think of any other ways that we could deal with this, that we might in some way affect for the better this abuse that you told us about?
Not that I'm aware of, other than trying to get in contact with those that are high up in, like Dennis Banks and some of the others that, you know, people are gonna listen to them, but they're not gonna listen to me. And I don't even know if Dennis Banks would listen, be willing to listen, because I don't know what his mindset is, and if it doesn't change, then nothing's going to change.
Well, are we going to leave this meeting with some kind of recommendation on something that any of us could do or not? Or are we just going to be better informed about it?
I don't know. That's why I brought it here for ideas.
Why did they stop the meal program?
It was through corruption. They wanted to create another program, and so they stopped.
Who stopped that? And this was some other. Well, it sounds like chances are that if these people that in the tribe that didn't want to have food probably wasn't giving it to them anyway.
There was a lady that was, you know, making the meals and making sure they were healthy and everything. They fired her, and then they closed the program down. I don't know if it would be worth going back to the lady within the native spirits, you know, tribal community to post something to her and see what she thinks.
Maybe she knew what was going on and that might want to her.
That's possible, I don't know. I don't know where to take this. My thought has been to go back to, her name is Kim, I don't remember her last name, but to go back to write her a message and say, you know, this is bugging me. Is there some way that you, I know she's native, but you know, how do you change this? I don't know.
Well, is this just a political thing, or is this truly represent some decline in the respect for the elders in the Lakota tribe, do you think?
That I can't answer. I don't know if it's political or not, because I don't know really know what's going on within the society.
Sounds like that meal thing was political.
Could be.
Didn't you say the government was paying for it?
Well, the U.S. government pays for it.
Yeah. Well, that's political as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But it just seems odd that, to me, and sad that you have a peoples who talks a lot about the sacredness of life, yet they're not taking care of their own peoples, and especially the elders. That they should be taking care of all, because you're supposed to have sacredness of all life, which includes the grasses and the ants and everything. That's not being very sacred. I don't know. Maybe this wasn't a good topic to bring up, but...
Well, if you come across any people to be contacted, addresses, emails, or whatever, you know, pass those on to us. And, you know, I think we should all keep in mind that anybody can make a difference. You know, we don't know until we try.
Maybe contact that person that you She might know what was going on. That might be why they got rid of her.
Is she affiliated with the Native Spirits thing that she talks about?
Yeah, she's one of the admins. It's kind of like a Facebook group, so she is one of the admins for the group, yeah. They also have a Facebook page, which is open to anybody. And actually, if anybody's interested, I can get the email or the web address, because anybody can join it. Because they have some pretty interesting topics, you know, on a daily basis, and it may be of interest to others as well. But anyways, I don't know. Like I said, this may not have been a good topic to bring
Well,
up.
I mean, it's, no, I think it is.
It's an excellent topic. I just think
Yeah, I just don't know how to fix it.
if we're going to do anything, try to do anything about it, you know, we need a little bit of information on who to contact. And those of us who are motivated, you know, then could do that. And we don't know if we might, some of us might make, over time, make a difference if we got involved in it. And then if we found out it was going on elsewhere, nearer home, you know, we might become even more interested in trying to do something about it.
Well, I know it's going on in New Mexico too, because like I said, I saw billboards in regards to no excuse for elder abuse and child abuse. So it's not unique to the Lakotas.
Well, there's this lady, help me with her name, Ronnie, if you think of it, who spoke to us from the North Texas Conference. She was the Native American representative of the North Texas Methodist Conference. She and her husband were both, I think, full-blood Native Americans. And they spoke here a few years ago. If this lady and her husband, their name is escaping me now, but you know, she has a lot of contacts in the Native American community nationwide, and you know, and she will see the program. You know, she's on our list, and you know, she may have some thoughts. I don't know, but you know, if you do come up with a little short list of contacts after you give it some more thought, you know, I'll be sure she gets a copy of it.
Okay.
And then maybe we can get something going, you know, to deal with it.
We get make some awareness.
Yeah.
It's not just
Larney. Their name is Larney.
Peggy.
Peggy Larney, and her husband has since died.
Yes, Larry.
What was his name?
Larry.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah. Larry died a few years ago.
They made a great presentation here.
Yeah. Peggy's a very knowledgeable person.
She may have some input.
Yeah. Yeah, she may know about this, or, and maybe it can give us some ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about time we got her back. That's
Yeah.
5 or 6, 7 years ago.
One of the early programs, yeah.